All right, I've got a special treat for you guys here. I've got Nick Palacios, and you might know him on Instagram. He's thwack with two A's. It's an awesome sound that the bow makes when it hits the target, which is what you want to hear. But Nick, tell us a little bit more about who you are, maybe even how you and I came to know each other.
Yeah, man. So, we actually got put into contact with, a mutual friend of ours through Colin and High Caliber Hunts. You had recently just done one. Let's see, I did mine in April. So you must have done yours like right at the beginning of April, if I remember correct, right?
Yeah, it was one
Yeah.
of his first
And
ones.
yeah, exactly. So, and then you and I had happened to just be messaging, and I was looking to get on a hog hunt, and you put us into contact. And from then on, him and I were just talking back and forth, and ended up getting set up with him on his next hunt. Had a great time, man. Met some great people through that camp, and had a couple opportunities on some pigs. Unfortunately, didn't come home with any bacon, but that was one of my first hog hunts, and really good experience. Had a couple of shots that I shot way too far back, and I think shooting too much foam can kind of do that to you at times. It's not necessarily always the right shots that you want to get, but again, that's just kind of hunting and what the nature of it is. But yeah, man, that's how we ended up getting put into contact, and it's been great, man. That's what I love about Instagram. It's kind of all on how you use it. It's a tool. There's obviously a lot of negative on it, but if you use it the right way, and especially in the space that we're in the hunting industry, there's so many good people out there. And just, I say this all the time, just what hunting is by nature, it's just a very humbling endeavor. So I feel like the more that you do it, the more humbled you get, and the more that kind of builds and ingrains into your character. So most people are very forthcoming and super inviting. So it's just a great industry, man. We're both very lucky to be a part of it in the ways that we are.
Heck yeah. No, I definitely agree with
Yeah.
that. So that's how we met. Who's Nick though?
Yeah.
Who are you? Let's tell the listeners who you are.
Yeah. I guess depends on how far you want to go back, but
However far you want to go. I got all day.
originally from Northern California. Never grew up hunting. And that's kind of been uh not necessarily a badge of honor, but I kind of like that I've been able to pick it up on my own, and I had a calling to it. It's something that I always wanted to do, but it was just super foreign for me. And just through my early 20s, just kind of always like flirted around with the idea of like, trying to get into it. But just growing up where I grew up, it's just not something that's really talked about a lot. And if it is, it's kind of like in a negative light, just being more from, a larger city. Just nobody goes hunting. So it's not really something that's talked about. And once I ended up moving to Texas a couple of years ago, that's when I really started to dive into it. And after my 29th birthday, ended up picking up a used bow found on Craigslist after doing some research for a few weeks, and bought was a 2018 Bear, and great bow. Got a good deal on it. Got some arrows that were way too short for me, but I had no idea. I was just like, all right, I've got a bow. It looks like it works. So, let's go ahead and take this to a Cabela's, which was also a bad idea. But they got it set up enough for me to where I was able to get a couple shots off. And from that first end of arrows I shot, man, I was just absolutely hooked. And that's kind of where I started to like dive into this passion of archery. It was just kind of one of those things where it really clicked for me. And I'm extremely new to hunting and to archery in general, but it's just been something for me that as soon as I picked it up, I've just really wanted to go down the rabbit hole ever since. And it's kind of never been fighting to learn it. It's just felt like it's just been like a natural progression for me, which has been really cool. And I don't think that that's something that a lot of people don't. I think that's something that a lot of people don't find as an adult, right? You kind of grow up either playing sports and then you stop playing, or you start working, build a career, and then you kind of just get set in ways and you don't really find other hobbies. Hopefully you do, but unfortunately not everybody does. And I've gotten very fortunate to be able to do that. And like I said, man, I've just been down the rabbit hole ever since, and just fell in love with the whole process of it. It's been really good for me to just kind of like get back into fitness. I have a fitness background. I was a private trainer and personal trainer from the time I was like 19, and working for 24-hour fitness out of high school. And just over the years of training, you kind of just fall out of routine, because it kind of gets stale if you don't really have something specific that you're training for. So not only did I find like something I'm extremely passionate about in archery, but that also kind of reignited my love for fitness, because it kind of gives you something specific to train for, and you can really dial into like putting a program together, and tinkering with things like that, which is super fun for me. I'm a fitness nerd, so anything with body mechanics, movement, bodybuilding, any type of training, I just love to do. So it's been a lot of fun, man. I've been very fortunate in that regard.
I definitely understand that. It's
Yeah.
everyone, I think, but I take that back. Not everyone goes to the gym or trains. I
Mhm.
was in sports ever since I was young. And so I agree with you that it gets to a point where it becomes a little mundane. And even though you may be in the gym, you're not really
Mhm.
training. You're just kind of there
Yeah.
moving weights and picking up heavy things and putting back down and not really even
Yeah.
breaking a sweat. And,
Yeah.
so I get that 100%. And I think it's awesome that you've got the adult onset bow hunter
Yeah.
like I do. And,
Yeah.
I've kind of said that to a couple people and they laugh, but maybe I should trademark that. But
Yeah. Yeah. Get it, man.
let's put it under the DNA Archery brand.
There you
No,
go. Let's do it.
but yeah, I think it's cool to see you three. I love that little reel that was made that you guys did. Where it was
Yeah,
one
Derek
dumbass
crushed it
meets
with
another
that one.
dumbass.
Yeah, that's exactly how it started, man. So
Yeah.
when I started shooting, like within the first month, I went to TAC. It just like it happened perfect timing. So my birthday's in March, and TAC was like right around like the end of April,
Hmm.
that following month. And after a couple of weeks, I was just like, I was initially trying to find different places to shoot, and I didn't know about the archery club out here, which we're so lucky to have out here. It's the Austin Archery Club. It's a 60-acre open air bow course. So it's in the middle of like a huge, like a nice forest. It's city owned land, and they've leased it to the archery club for the last, I think 50 plus 60 years, man. They've been there
Hmm.
at the same spot forever. So once I found that place, I would just go there 3-4 times a week and just practice. I would shoot just hundreds of arrows, just, anytime I could, just trying
Yeah.
to get practice and all that. And I was thinking, okay, I want to do something competitive. And I was looking at either doing like 3D, I was looking at ASA, and then I found Total Archery Challenge. And I was like, you know what, I'm just going to sign up for it. I'll go by myself and just see how it is. And that's where I met Alex and Derek, who are my business partners in DNA and two of my best friends. We both had an early 7 a.m. knock time on the Leopold course, and they were hanging out, waiting to start. And I asked them if I could shoot with them, and they were like, "Yeah, man, come on, let's go ahead and shoot." And three dumbasses get together, and a year and a half later, here we are.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's funny because you meet so many people at these events, the Mountain Archery Fest or
Mhm.
TAC, for those of you guys that maybe don't know what TAC is, Total Archery Challenge. And it's funny to me when people come off the mountain, they're like, "Oh, why did you put the target like this and that?" And I just look at it and in my head, I'm like, because the last word of TAC is challenge, but
Yeah,
maybe
yeah, exactly.
maybe that's the common sense that's not so common anymore. But I think it's cool that that's how you guys met. And
Mhm.
I didn't know that. So that's awesome.
Yeah,
Well, you brought up DNA archery. I brought it up as just because I want you to talk a little bit about it. I think
yeah.
it's a great idea. Being a first generation bow hunter myself, and
Mhm.
before the podcast, we talked about how I took the neighbor kid and my son because the girls are gone, so we're doing boy
Yeah,
stuff and
there you
shot
go.
bows, right? So I'm already
Mhm.
trying to pass that on to my son. But tell me a little bit more about DNA archery. Obviously, it started with three dumbasses, but other than that,
Yeah,
how
yeah, yeah.
what for walk us through the start of it and maybe
Mhm.
some things that you guys are envisioning with this.
Yeah, yeah. So, DNA archery and first generation bow hunters, the term that we've coined, because both Derek, Alex, and myself, we all picked up archery as adults. We're the adult onset archery. Just through conversation, when we would go out to the club, we just be bouncing ideas back and forth off each other. And there's so much content out there, and there's so many people in the industry, and there's some guys that do it really well. Obviously like John Dudley, Cam Haynes, Dan Staten, like all those guys are awesome. Remy Warren, Steve Ranella from First Light and Meat Eater. Those guys to me are like my favorites. I consume their content on a regular basis. But for anybody who's like just trying to get into archery or bow hunting, it's super daunting, right? Like there's so much that goes into even just archery, let alone trying to figure out how and where to go hunting. So it was something that kind of came up where we were like, let's start a brand in a company where we can build a community of people that are in the same position as us, or maybe a little bit behind us, that are thinking about getting into archery, or thinking about getting into bow hunting, and create that network and that community where they can bounce ideas off of each other, and we can kind of create content for those people, right? Because I'm never going to sit here and act like I'm a professional and I can speak to somebody and give people advice that are, decades ahead of me, because I'd be fucking delusional. Sorry, I don't know if that's my fault.
No, you're good.
Yeah, man. So we just decided, like, let's run in that lane, because that's our bread and butter. We want to be able to get other people into this because it's enriched our lives in so many different ways. Aside from just you've got the camaraderie of just going out and shooting with your friends, right? You've got the camaraderie of going on a bow hunt with your friends. If you're successful, you've got all the great things that come with, hauling meat back, quartering it up, cutting it up, getting it all cooked that night. It's a really enriching, amazing experience, and there's a lot of humility that goes along with that. There's a lot of respect for wildlife and some really cool experiences that you get to be a part of that you wouldn't any otherwise. Being able to see animals in their natural habitat when they don't know you're around is a really beautiful experience. It's very unique. And I want to share that. And I want to share, like, my love for it and the pitfalls and the successes, and just show people that it's definitely, there's a barrier of entry, but it's not impossible to do. It takes work. And that was the whole premise behind starting DNA Archery, is, again, fostering that community and creating content focused for those people that are, new to it at our position, or thinking about doing it.
No, yeah, I love that. And you're right. I think for people like you and me that are driven, and it's something that we want to do, we go and we do our own research, and there's so many free opportunities to learn out there. It's ridiculous. I don't know how these people make money, to be honest with you. Like, I was self-taught, self-coached, because I went into YouTube and found people that were, like you were saying, not trying to sell you stuff, but genuinely wanting you to be a better person and a better archer. That's why I was drawn to Dan Staten, Dudley, and others, because they let you know, hey, we're sponsored. They're obviously sponsored by this and that, but they're not trying to sell you those things. And so I do love that. I love the idea of helping new archers out, having a place for them to go. I love, like, going up to Wild Arrow and helping out. Like, I'm not an employee per se, but I work there. I go up there and I'll help out with customer service when the lobby gets busy. And some people just want to go up there and chat and feel comfortable. Because if you walk into a bow shop for the first time, you see these guys with these decked out rigs and bows all over the wall, and 85 grain, 150 grain broadheads. You're like, I don't even know where to start. Right. Do I get the pretty crazy pink veins, or do I get, like, what do I do? And so, so exactly. I love that. I think that's a great idea that you guys are coming up with. And it's pretty sweet.
It's been really cool, man. When I first got into it, and I see just whoever just posting content. If I had a question, would reach out. Really didn't matter if they had a handful of followers, or they had tens of thousands or more. Like, they would actually hit me back, and I was always super surprised by that. And again, I think that goes back to, like, the humility of hunting, and just, like, wanting to help other people out and put them in a good position to win. So getting all that advice up front in the beginning was really impactful for me. So I always told myself, like, if I'm ever in a position to be able to do the same for anybody else, I want to always make sure my door's open. Like, I always tell people, like, if you ever have questions, feel free to shoot me a message. I'm always happy to help. So anytime somebody hits me up, I always make sure I try to get to it as fast as I can, give them a really good detailed answer to try to put them in the right direction. I never think that, like, my way is the best way. I just say what works for me. What hasn't worked for me, you try it out for yourself. You do your research, and then take it from there. But again, it's a lot of it's about making sure you do, like, value driven content, and giving back to other people.
Yeah, exactly. I do. I love that a lot, because, again, you received something. So it's that value exchange. And anyone listening out there has heard me say that probably too many times, but that's really how you build relationships well. And also, like, you receive so much and you want to give back. And so that's your way of giving back. And I think that's really awesome. Cause I love, I was just up yesterday helping out, and this guy came in, and he hasn't shot a bow since before Boy Scouts. And he's in there getting this decked out RX-7. I was like, damn,
nice.
That's a nice
I
bow.
love it.
But like, going in and, I was asking him a couple things just to kind of gauge his knowledge. And he knew nothing. right? He's coming in
Yeah.
there with like some stock arrows and stuff. And so I just kind of gave him a little kind of not down the rabbit hole, but a little view of
Yeah,
what he's looking at.
for
And he
sure.
happened to be there again today, and he was shooting getting his
Nice.
bow
Yeah.
sighted in. So you know, stuff like that. I love being able to help people like that. I've noticed you
Mhm.
guys have done that as well,
Yeah.
with a lot of the things that you're doing. So it's pretty sweet, man. It's a great
Yeah, man,
idea.
it's been fun, man. So and just like how you help out at the bow shop by where you live, you know, I've just recently taken on the position as tournament director over at the Austin Archery Club. Because same thing, man. I love that place, and it's, you know, kind of been like my, you know, stomping grounds. So when the position opened up, you know, we don't get paid for it. It's on a volunteer basis, but it's just great to be in the community, you know,
Mhm.
getting those tournaments set up for these people. A lot of these guys have been going there for decades, you know,
Yep.
for a long time. So it's cool to just soak up their knowledge and just talk and just get that information from them and just shoot, you know, just shoot arrows, have a good time, go talk shit, get on the course for a few hours. It's cool, man. It's really fun.
Yeah, exactly. It's way better than
Yeah,
golf for anyone out there listening. Okay.
way better. I haven't touched my golf clubs in 2.5, 3 years. So
Right? Yeah.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
I joke with people about that. I'm like, man, you hit a ball and you have to go chase it. And they're like, well, you pull a string back and have to go chase. So I'm like, okay, fine. Touche.
get to,
Touche.
I get to hopefully eat what I chase, though. You can't
It-
eat your golf ball.
exactly. And I don't have to chase
Yeah.
it every time. I can shoot 5 or 6 and then go.
Exactly.
Yeah. Cool. So let's talk a little bit about, so I kind of alluded to it at the beginning, but you know, your
Mhm.
Instagram handle is thwack.
Yep.
Tell us about that, why, you know, why that came about. And I think it's an
Yeah.
interesting story.
It's kind of goofy, but I mean, just when I started shooting, I just always like the sound of the bow, that thwack of the bow, or when it hits the target. It was always really cool, especially like when you first start shooting and you're actually hitting the target and you're not missing it, you know. So that's kind of like how I come up with the name, and I looked it up on Instagram, and I was like, oh, it's not taken, so I ended up keeping it. And then just it really came like from me. How I started making content was just really like, I got a tripod, took my phone, I'd take a notebook with me when I would go to the club, and I would literally draw out the insert as I would see it on the target. And then I would film myself shooting. I'd shoot an end. I'd take a photo of it with my phone, and then I'd plot it on my notebook. And then I would look back, and you do that so many times. So then you get like, you know, say like a dozen different, you know, horrible drawings in my notebook. And I can look back on that. So if I, you know, if I tracked and I shot well, I could look back and see how I was releasing, how I was drawing back, what were my feet, how was I breathing, all these different stuff, all these different things within my shot process. And it was really good for me to be able to get that feedback, because I didn't have anybody that I knew at the time that was shooting. So that's how I kind of got about it. And then I just started editing videos here and there, and I would put them on TikTok for a little bit, and then I kind of throw them on Instagram, and it kind of just snowballed from there. I was doing it pretty consistently from, I would probably say like April of last year till November. Um, and it was just like more or less just kind of like putting out my shooting videos and all that. And I went, and then I started 75 hard at the beginning of this year. And I made it a point to be like, I really want to take my content seriously. I want to take archery and bow hunting very seriously. I had a little bit of success last year on my first hunting season, which was really fun. I was able to shoot my first 2 whitetail, amazing experiences. Got to do that both with Derek and Alex. Derek's family has a lease out in West Texas. It's a
That's awesome.
beautiful piece of land, and you know, they're gracious enough to let us go hunt it. So you know, like I said, had some success there. But yeah, so at the beginning of the year, that was, you know, that was my goal. One was to finish 75 hard, which thankfully I was able to do. And through the discipline that I got from that, which you've gone through 75 hard in the Live Hard program and crushed it. So you know, the not just like the physical benefits, but really a lot of it, the real gift is like the mental bandwidth and the mental sharpening tools that you're able to build from staying on task every single day. And that's when I really started to see a snowball effect, because I was posting almost daily, and just staying on top of it and really treating it as if it was almost like a second job.
Mhm.
But it was just so fun, man. And it was cool to see how it continued to progress. And then as we started to, you know, build DNA Archery up and kind of put together a strategy of like the type of content that we wanted to put out, you know, the aesthetic we wanted to go for, the style of videos, things like that. You know, it's kind of just taken, you know, it's grown some legs of its own. and just started running, man. It's really cool to see, and also very humbling. It's kind of weird to see a following build up. It's not massive, but it's really cool to see. So I'm excited to see where we continue to take, DNA, and where I continue to take, myself and everything along as well.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's awesome. And talking with Alex about, how he's delving down the rabbit hole of photography. That's kind of taken over.
He's crushing it, man. He's gotten so good at it, because he's I think he got his camera in April.
Mhm.
And to see the discipline that he's been able to have in learning how to take photos, how to set up shots, how to be able to edit, all that stuff is not easy to do. And to see where he's been able to take it in a short amount of time has been very commendable, man. It's cool to see.
Yeah. That's something that I dabbled in for a minute, and I realized it's not my thing. So,
it's a lot, dude. It's hard.
Yeah, that takes a lot. But that's awesome. So I kind of want to break down a couple of things that you brought up just now. First off, 75 hard. That's a big deal for those of you that don't know what it is. Where have you been? But no, but really though, like 75 hard is like, it's funny to me because there's people who know Andy Frisella, there's people who know 75 hard, but sometimes they know them separately, and it kind of blows me away that they don't know that he's the one that started it, or vice versa, like how that they're intertwined. And then that first Phorm is a part of that as well. So it's kind of funny to talk to people that have done 75 hard but don't know Andy or who he is or his podcast, but it's grown that much. And so, for those of you out there that don't know what 75 hard is, and the Live Hard program, it's basically, you go and do 2 workouts a day, 45 minutes. One of them has to be outside, right? No matter rain, sun, shine, snow, whatever, earthquake. Now don't be dumb, right? Don't go out in the middle of a hurricane or tornadoes and stuff. Like, consult your doctor, blah, blah, blah. But, it's 2 workouts, 45 minutes. One has to be outside, a gallon of water a day. It can't be flavored, it's got to be just straight water, not mineral water, right? It's got to be water. And then that's probably one of the hardest things for some people. The hardest thing for me was having to pee every 20 minutes. But but other than
it's
that,
a big change. If you're not used to drinking a lot of water, that's a hard one, especially you wake up 2 times, 3 times a night sometimes, depending on how much or how late. If you don't start it early in the day and front load your water intake, and you're trying to get half a gallon of water down
or walking
an hour
around
or 2 before bed.
Doing your walk at 1 a.m. because you went to go lay down and you're like, oh crap.
Definitely I got close a couple times where you fall asleep, you wake up and you're like, oh shit, I still got to read in. I still got to get my second workout in. It's tiring towards the end of it, man. I had a really hard time right around like day 50 and between 50 and like 65, because you're kind of there.
You're
kind of there.
And then you have that adrenaline rush through the last week and a half of it. It's pretty sweet. So again, the 2 workouts, one of them has to be outside. They're 45 minutes each, a gallon of water. You have to read a physical book, and you call it self-help, whatever, but a nonfiction physical book, 10 pages every single day. And then you have to do, there's one more thing I'm missing here.
We say 2 workouts. Why am I blanking on it?
I don't know.
It's funny. You can go through 75 days of it and then completely forget it.
Right. Yeah. I'll bring it up in a little bit, but guys, go look it up. 75 hard is amazing. And like what you were saying, there's physical benefits. Oh, the diet. You have to
there you go.
Diet, and there's no cheat meals for those 75 days. It can be any diet you want, but it has to be a diet. You have to stick to it. And it can't be a candy diet. That's not a thing. So don't try that. But
no cheat meals and a diet. That was the last 2.
Yes, and no alcohol. That was the other thing. That one I always forget because I don't drink anyway.
That was the big one.
One's not a
go
ahead.
That was the big one. That was a big one for me, honestly, because and it's not that I've never been an alcoholic. I don't have an addiction problem, but you kind of get into like, oh, it's the weekend, I'm gonna go out with my friends. Have it. You go out, drink, you get hungover. If you go out Saturday, then you're hungover all day Sunday. You're kind of still probably feeling it a little bit on Monday, and then you get into this cycle of like, doing that on a regular basis for however long, right? And you don't really notice how much momentum you slow up. And for me, being able to stop and abstain from drinking for that long, that was the first time I stopped drinking from that long for a long time. So to be able to have 75 straight days without drinking and seeing the momentum that I was able to build in taking the goals that I had prior to starting and seeing those being able to produce like tangible progress was incredible for me. And that for me was like my number one, number two takeaway, like that, and the mental strength that I was able to get from it, like the self-discipline from there. But it's a big thing, man. It's a lot of things for people. Like, drinking is very socially acceptable, so you don't really see it as I'm drinking on the weekends, so that's whatever, everybody does it. But you stop drinking and you're like, oh, I'm good, I don't want to drink. People look at you really funny, and they're kind of like, well, what's wrong with you? So it's kind of weird. And I would get people that would ask like, oh, well, how come you're not drinking? Are you like sober? And it's like, one, it's none of your business, but two, like, no, I just don't want to have a drink right now. So it's weird. You kind of get weird looks.
Isn't that interesting? Because like I saw something the other day. It was a comedian that said it, but she was like, no one goes around and says, oh, you don't eat mayonnaise? Why aren't you eating mayonnaise? Like
yeah.
Like no, I always got it growing up because I don't drink. I'm LDS, so I've actually never had a drop of alcohol in my life. And
oh wow.
And so, but I'd always go to
That's
parties.
commendable in itself.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it. And I don't look down on people that do drink. Like, I don't care. That's your choice. It's what you want to, do. To me, it smells horrible. And, the faces that I see people have when they take a shot, I'm like, I'm good. I'm good. But in all reality, so that 75 hard, going back to that, is a big mental game changer, because one, you were saying, you got that mental clarity from giving up alcohol. And a lot of people don't realize the fog that can create. Like, you come home from work, you want to pop a cold one and watch a show. How many of those hours you could be more productive? How many more people could have a DNA Archery? How many people could use those ideas that are in their head that they go to the grave with? You could use those hours of Netflixing and beer drinking to go and make them happen, like you guys have. And it's funny that you say, and I saw it and I was kind of watching from a distance. I wanted to get you on afterwards because I wanted to hear what you had to say about it, because you guys, I mean, it was an exponential growth for your company.
Yeah.
And it was great to see how it's taken off. And I knew in the back of my mind, I never said anything to you about it, but I'm like, this has to do with 75 hard, because you're dialed in to what you're wanting to do. And yes, you had physical benefits. You will, because of the diet and the 2 workouts a day, but even more so just being so disciplined to making it happen and being so dialed in on what you want to do. I think it's amazing. And it's done wonders for you guys. I don't know if I don't think your business partners have done that, but
So actually, Derek is actually in the home stretch of it right now.
Oh, sweet.
Derek has been on 70. I think Derek's almost at day 60, if he's not at day 60 already. And he's been crushing it, dude. Like, that's another thing, seeing Derek go through that has been incredible. He's lost like almost 20 pounds.
Wow.
Looks amazing. He's been crushing it, man. That's another thing too, like, super commendable to see him stick with it. Him and his wife have been doing it together as well. Like, my fiance and I had done it together as well. And was talking about it with them all throughout going through 75 hard, and they ended up starting it a few months ago, man. And they're crushing it, man. They're doing really good.
That's awesome. That's really good to hear.
Yeah.
That's cool. And I love seeing that growth. And if you guys didn't, follow DNA Archery and Thwack before on social media, you guys could look back and see that exponential growth just in the last 2.5 months, 3 months. It's been crazy. It's been cool to see. And then, something else too that I kind of want to unpack was just, again, that idea of wanting to give back. I think that's something that a lot of people don't understand. They just want to take. And when you're doing that, it drains the people around you, and you don't ever really get full. But when you have a different purpose behind working with someone else, or you have this idea like you did to give back to the archery community that has given you so much, that's a game changer, and that's definitely a big deal. And I love that. Again, I love that about the brand and what you guys are doing over there. So what are some things that, I mean, you said you're volunteering at the Austin Archery Club. And what are some other things that you do? Because I know you've got a couple businesses going. What's your day normally look like, I guess?
Yeah. So normal day is so I'm in estate management. So for people who don't know, I had a pressure washing business for a while in the home services sector, and just recently got into estate management, which is basically like, so my background has either been within fitness or operations management, basically just making sure companies run smoothly, keeping things organized, things like that. So estate management now, just basically I have a client who has a large estate in Austin here, and I work with a team of people to just help run it, make sure things go smoothly, and that's what I do for a day job. But mornings will either be, I usually get up anywhere between like 5:30, 6:30, wake up, go for a run. I live my place where I live backs up to a nature preserve, so I can hop out of my house, go across the parking lot, and I'm in the woods. So it's awesome. So I can go trail run. I hit about a 2-mile loop on a trail run real quick in the morning, come back, get ready for work, knock out my day. And I'm still trying to keep up with the 2 workouts a day. I don't get it every day of the week, but anywhere between like 3-4 days a week, I'll be able to do it. So I like the discipline of getting into a workout first thing in the morning. For me, it's just like you get everything moving, you get your blood pumping, you get a sweat. You don't have to, shove coffee down your throat first thing when you wake up to get going, so it's much more sustainable. So yeah, still trying to hit the 2 workouts a day. So after work, I usually get a workout in, and then get back home, and my lady and I'll usually go lift together. We always try to make sure we spend a little bit of time together on a daily basis, because we both work a lot. So we try to make sure we put that time aside, whether it's a workout or making dinner together, just touching base with each other. But I like to stay within a routine, man. My day's pretty from the outside looking in would look kind of boring, on your day to day. It's just workouts, work, and then go shooting if I can. If I'm lucky, I can go 3 times a week, 4 times a week. I live about 30 minutes from the archery club. So, just try to go out there and just shoot some arrows as much as I can, just staying sharp and staying on top of it. And then in between that, helping run DNA Archery with the guys, trying to figure out content strategies. That was one thing that when I was going through 75 hard, I was really trying to make sure I would, like, I'm super competitive. So, especially with hunting, I feel like I'm just so far behind. So that's why I just, like, you ask my fiance, she's awesome because she's extremely supportive and she loves seeing me so passionate about things. But if I don't curb it, then I'll talk about archery or bow hunting all the time. So I'm if I'm not working, like, I'm always doing or thinking something about the space.
Here's a hack.
Right?
Here's a hack. When you have kids, I don't know if you guys are planning on having kids or not, but when you have kids,
We are.
involve them in your passions. That way you can be like, but Asher wanted to go shoot his bow. I just happened. I had to show him the right way to do it, so I brought mine too.
Yeah, that's totally happening. She already knows it. We've had a talk already. It's going down.
Yep.
Yep. I'll get a Kifaru pack, throw my little one in the back, and
Yep.
take them with me when we go out.
It works. I've done it.
I believe it. Smart man. Yep. Good way to spend your time. But yeah, man. So I just like staying on my routine. That's where I feel deadly. That's when I feel like super sharp. But like I said, just studying like content strategy is something that I really enjoy doing as well. Trying to put together an overarching idea of okay, this is kind of what we want to run with. Obviously, like with social media, you do the cool stuff that that's flashy with reels and all that, and like with the weird stuff that Instagram's been doing with only pushing reels now. It's like you have to kind of play the game a little bit and play to the algorithm and play to what trends, but you also can't stray so far away from your initial goal and what you're really driving towards, and that's putting out good content. So I've got some really cool things I'm putting together as far as content around first gen bow hunters and DNA, more informational stuff that's going to be good for me. It'll be some, not first for me, but it'll be first in kind of like going down like these different types of content paths that I feel like not a lot of people have done so far. So I'm excited to get those going. Don't really want to talk too much about it yet. Don't want to give it away, but you guys will see it very soon. So I'm excited about those coming up. But putting together content strategy is something I'm super passionate about. I love to do that and see the engagement and see people get value from it and help to like banter back and forth on conversation from it. So it's just really cool, man. It's very, very humbling, but that's like the long-winded answer of what my day-to-day looks like. It's a mix of some pretty mundane stuff, but it's all things that I absolutely love to do.
So you guys heard it here. You need to go follow Thwack and the Stash to make sure that you get the good content.
There you go. There you go.
Well,
You
you're
heard it here
rocking that
first.
stash, dude. I don't think I could. I mean,
Yeah.
I've got a good mustache, but I just wouldn't look right on me.
You know why people rock mustaches?
Why? Because they
Because
can't
they
grow
can't grow
beards.
beards.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. If I
Well, see,
could,
I've
I'd
got a
have a
problem.
full, I'd
I
have a
could
full beard.
donate like my neck. Like if I could just transplant this over to your face,
Yeah.
would be good. There's plenty down here. I hate having to shave
There
it.
you go. That's why people rock mustaches. If I could, I would, but the mustache is working for now, so we'll keep it running.
That's awesome. Well, cool, man. So I mean, so we've talked about DNA archery. We've talked about kind of
Yeah.
your transition, how things are going there. And again, I love hearing stories about people that excel, especially in archery. That's something that's become a big thing for me in the last couple of years as well. And it's just there's so many things that you can do with it,
Yeah.
and sometimes we can get a little too tinkery with stuff. And I
Yeah.
don't know if you've come
Yeah.
across that or not, but I have this great setup that's working awesome, and I'm like, but I didn't try this yet.
Yeah. Let me just throw the stick in the bike spokes real quick and just mess the whole thing up.
Yeah.
I'm not the biggest fan of that. I'll tinker a little bit, but not too much. Like I'll tinker with arrows here and there, but usually for me, like I'm not the kind of person that's going to be like, okay, I'm going to have a tack arrow set up and a hunting arrow set up. I kind of just have something that's a good mix of the two. I just got a new UV scope, so that's going to help out with some clearance. I've got the AAE hybrid 26 vanes, so there's a little bit lower profile. So I can get some good clearance from those, so I can shoot out to 100-ish, 100 plus. And
what's your draw length?
29.
So you've got a longer draw length. What poundage are you pulling?
70.
And you're having issues with clearance? Oh,
I had a spot hog before. Yeah, so the spot hog was a little bit wider. I could get about 95 yards with the spot hog.
Okay.
So I was still getting good
top
clearance.
Pin or
bottom pin.
Your bottom. Okay, cool. That's interesting because I've got probably Matthews probably wouldn't be happy if they heard this, but I cranked down the cables a little bit and got 79 pounds out of my Matthews, but I'm only 27 and a half inch draw and I've got clearance. So that it's interesting, but I'm shooting a black gold. And so their housing's a little bit smaller. It's not quite as small as an Ultra View, which I've started. Of course, I've started looking at those now that I got the black gold dialed, and I'm like, but I could do.
Yeah, they're so nice. I got it. So I actually bought this one off of Alex because he just got the UV3. So I bought this off of him, and he just got it like 6-7 months ago. So it's pretty much brand new, and I'll never go back. Like I just the LED lights that they have are awesome. Like I went to the club this morning and I got there at like 6 a.m. My buddy Justin and I were shooting, and low light, sun's barely coming up, and the way that housing and all those pins light up on the UV is awesome for low light situations. So it was cool to try that out today. That was actually the first time I had shot out of that. So stretched a couple shots out today. That was fun. I still got to toy with a couple of things. My third axis is off a little bit. We were shooting a couple of steeper incline shots, and I was shooting pretty low. So I'll take it into archery country and go see Tank, who's my bow tech over there. He's awesome. So we'll have him dial it in, and we're going to do some stuff with the Archer's Advantage because I've never used that before either. So for people who don't know what that is, it's kind of like firearm ballistics. You put in like all this different data, and then it extrapolates a very customized sight tape if you're shooting an adjustable sight. So I'll be excited to try that out and see what kind of accuracy I get from that. So we'll do that hopefully next week when I get back at some point. But yeah, man, just I'm not a big tinkerer. I like to kind of just stick with a good like media, like something in the middle, so where I can shoot tack throughout the year, and because I do shoot a lot of foam because I'm close to the club here. But I really like to keep everything dialed for hunting for the most part.
Awesome. Well, yeah, no, I like that. I'm guilty of that, unfortunately, and that's kind of just how I am. I like to. I'm a gear nerd, and I like to try new things.
I see you moving. I see you changing a lot of stuff on a regular basis too. I'm like, man, that guy's always got to be sighting in his bow. I can't. I try to keep away from that, man. It could be frustrating when you're not figuring out what's going on with it. I'm like, damn, what the hell is wrong with my bow?
Exactly.
So that's something I try to stay away from.
And I always end up back to the same arrow. Like, to be honest with you, 3 years ago when I started, I was shooting the VAPs, like not even the TKOs, just the VAPs with a 3 fletch helical boning heat.
Mhm.
And guess where I'm at now? Like,
Yeah. All
and it's,
reliable.
I know it. I mean, it just works. It's just dialed.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, that's awesome. And that's what I would recommend for people, honestly, especially if
Mhm.
you're trying to save money. And don't tinker too much.
Yeah. Don't even start shooting if you're trying to save money.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
just never going to. You're never going to, because every
Yeah.
paycheck you say, well, I'm not going to buy something, and then you get paid, and I'm like, well, I guess I could get a new rest for my bow. So,
You need a
you just
backup
always find something
bow.
to spend. Yeah, yeah, there you go. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, exactly,
It's
man. That's
fun. It's
awesome.
fun, man. There's always something cool to do. It's kind of like it's similar for me in like in fitness, where you're never done.
Mhm.
It's just something that you always can continually build on, and that's the same thing with bow hunting and archery. It's never there's no end game to it. It's just always like continually honing your skills and continuing to practice and trial and error, and that's what I love about it. So you just can't get enough of it.
Yeah. Well, you beat me to the question. I was going to ask you what's got you hooked on
Yeah,
archery, but
that's it.
there you
Yeah,
go. Yep.
yeah.
That's pretty sweet, dude. So what all, I mean, you obviously, you've got a lot going on.
Mhm.
And all of you guys out there in the Austin area, definitely go check out Thwack's stuff and go, go shoot with him over at the Austin Archery Club.
Yeah,
Go join some of the
absolutely.
tournaments that he's setting up, and they look pretty. I think you posted a tournament, like a bracket or something, didn't you, the other day? Or
Uh, what was that? I think, oh, that was just for one of the shoots that we were doing.
Mhm.
So it's called T-Bot. It's like traditional bow hunters of Texas.
Mhm.
Every year they do a shoot at the club. It's like a 3-day or 2-day shoot that they'll do. So I was just going there, just getting everything set up and
Were they all
rearranging
trad
targets and
bows, or
everything.
is it just traditional bow hunters is the title?
So it's all trad bows, but they're all bow hunters. Yeah,
That's
they
awesome.
all shoot recurves. Yeah, so it's cool, man. It kind of caters to everybody there, which is really fun. And I've done, I'll go, like I said, I'll go to shoot the club, and I'll be at the static range and meet somebody, and we'll just start chopping it up, and then we'll end up going to shoot together. So it's a really cool spot, man. If you're ever in the central Texas area, at least suggest going and checking it out. Shoot me a message, and if I got the time, man, I'm always down to shoot with good people. So
Definitely. No,
yeah,
definitely. That's awesome. So you mentioned an elk hunt this year.
yeah,
Let's talk about that. Let's get into maybe a little bit more hunting and less archery,
yeah,
75 hard, and all the other fun things I like to talk
yeah,
about
yeah,
too.
yeah, yeah, man.
So what have you got going on this year, and what's up with this elk hunt?
So I'm gonna kind of cut my teeth this year and try my first elk hunt. Tags go on sale next week, or actually at the beginning of August, I think on the 3rd. So I've got 3 other friends of mine that we're gonna go out. So we're just kind of dialing in the units right now. And then me and one of the guys are gonna plan a trip in the middle of August. We're gonna drive up to Colorado, do some actual scouting in person, and just go out there and see what we can come up with, man. Doing a bunch of research throughout the year, and luckily was able to get a group of guys together that were down to do it. So we'll have 3 hunters, and then one guy that's going to come with us and help pack out if we get so lucky. And I'm just excited for it, man. I'm not I'm expecting to go in and train as much as I can, and hopefully we come out successful. And if not, at least it's something that we were able to go out and experience for ourselves, man. That's the beauty of hunting. You can read everything in the world, and you can practice and practice and practice, but until you actually go out and do it, it's kind of just all theoretical.
Yep.
So yeah, we just all decided, like, hey man, let's go try it out. So all 4 of us will be our first time elk hunting. So it'll be really fun, man, to see how we end up doing.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that too, because I know there's elk hunts
Yeah.
down in Texas. They're kind of pricey, and they're on
Yeah.
private, private
Texas
spots.
is pay to play. Yeah, that's what I love Texas, because it got me into hunting. And it's very much ingrained in the culture, but it's very pay to play. There's not a lot of public land. If you go out and you study the public land that's out there, you can have success. I think I went on, dude, I honestly, no lie, I went on probably 10 hog hunts this year, and until last month, I had no success. And again, that's just like, and you're just going out getting beat up all day. Sometimes you go out like after a big rain in Texas, like Texas has huge, like really intense rainfall. And
Mhm.
then it'll be very short and then stop. And it kind of like goes on and off for a certain amount of time throughout the year. So out in that public land where the landscape isn't managed, like you're wading through grass that's almost up to my chin. no lie.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll be wading through it, and then all of a sudden you see this big matted down piece of land that's just like all hog beds. So you can't see anything. So you're like on edge because you know hogs are close. But it's fun, man. You know, just going out again, trial and error, and seeing what works and what doesn't. And I actually had a past client of mine invited me onto their property, and that nobody hunts it anymore. They're actually about to get off of that lease. But he's like, hey man, you want to go out? And he's like, I know we got some pigs out there. I just got some good, a couple of good pigs coming through the trail cams that we have, and went out by myself and was able to get lucky finally.
That's
So
awesome.
it's just going out there and putting in the work and seeing what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I was going to ask you, because, I've kind of talked on the podcast about my way and how I've gotten into things. And you haven't gone to an elk shaped camp, which you're going to be at the one in Texas next year.
Not yet, but I am. I'm either going to do the one in Texas next year or California. Being from California, and I've talked to Chris over at the Julian Ranch, and I would really like to go check that out. It would be fun to do an elk shaped camp in my home state. So I'm toying between which one I'm going to go on, but I will absolutely be at one next year for sure.
Sweet. That's awesome. Yeah. It's a great camp. I highly recommend it to anyone looking to cut the learning curve down. And it's so great that I'll be going 3 years in a row. So
Thanks, man. That's awesome.
Yeah,
It always seems like a great time. And I'm
Yeah,
sure
it is.
and I know anything that Dan does, he does it 100%, and he gets great professionals that go to those. So I'm very much looking forward to that next year.
Yeah, for sure. So walk us through the idea of going from Texas, never having hunted elk, to jumping in on this with a group of guys,
Yeah.
and kind of what are some maybe 3 pointers that you would give to anyone that is maybe an out of stater. And all of you
Mhm.
out of staters, you can go to Colorado. Utah sucks. Don't come to Utah. Don't go to Montana. Don't go to Wyoming. Don't go to
Yep.
go to Colorado. Colorado has the highest density of elk. Go to Colorado.
Well, that's what you told me. That's why I'm going to Colorado. I didn't pick Utah. So
There you go.
no. Yeah.
No, but for real, like you've never. I mean, I'm sure you've been to Colorado, but you haven't hunted
Yeah.
elk in
Yeah.
Colorado. So it's a
Correct.
whole different ballgame. So maybe 3 pointers that you'd give people that you guys are going through right now.
Yeah. So one thing that's been super helpful, and Colorado's Department of Wildlife is awesome. I mean, honestly, any state's wildlife department is super helpful. So for anybody who doesn't know anything about non-resident hunting, like I didn't, I would call them and just start asking questions. Do I need any special permits? If you're going to be shooting archery, a lot of states will require you getting an archery permit. You have to get a non-resident tag. You got to get all these certain things. So you have to get your hunter's education certified through them, so that way you can even buy the tag. So I would call whatever state you're interested in, call their Department of Wildlife, and take notes. They're super nice. Like I've sat on the phone with them for like 30+ minutes at a time, and they answer every question, and they're super helpful. So that would be one. Find a good mapping software, whether it's Go Hunt or whatever you like to use. I like Go Hunt a lot. I like their 2.0 platform. So you can go into Go Hunt's 2.0 platform. You can say, I want to do, like for me in particular, I want to hunt elk. I want to do an over the counter. And it'll give you all this data. It'll show you the ratio of public to private land. It'll show you weather patterns. It'll tell you, I think it tells you like the migration of the animals. It'll tell you hunting success in various units. It'll also tell you different rules within each units, because some are specific for antlerless or cows, or bulls or spikes, whatever it is. So that would be number 2. And then number 3 would just be familiarize yourself with whatever it is you're looking to hunt, and get your practice in. Make sure you're 100% comfortable. So if you do end up getting into a point where you're in the red zone and you're going to be pulling back on that animal, the last thing you want to do is have any kind of self-doubt, like, oh man, I know I didn't practice enough, or I'm not comfortable with this setup. I don't know, because it's going to magnify when you're in the red zone and your heart's beating through your throat, and you've got an elk bugling at you, or you've got a cow elk that's 5 times the size, however much bigger than a whitetail or whatever it is that you hunted before. I can only imagine it's got to be extremely nerve-wracking. I've hunted whitetail, and it's nerve-wracking when you finally see the deer that you're going to shoot. So your practice is important. Put your research in. Contact that Department of Fish and Wildlife, or whatever state you're going to hunt. That's going to be super important in finding a good mapping software and doing your e-scouting.
think those are really good pointers, guys. So definitely listen in on that, because there's so many resources out there. And again, he's mentioning a couple good ones. And you can again go down the rabbit hole, and there's so many other
Yeah.
options as well. But those are good 3 highlighted points that I would
Mhm.
also back that and recommend. We're definitely going to have you on again whenever you're done with the hunt, and
Yeah,
see
love it.
how it
Would
went,
love it.
even if you don't tag out, right? And that's the other
Mhm.
thing too. This last year, September 1, we were in the woods the first evening, and I had a shot at a spike that I missed, and
Yeah.
it happens. And then I went 20 something days without having another face-to-face encounter with an elk. And
Yeah.
it can be frustrating, but it was so rewarding. And I walked out of there with no regrets, because I knew I'd
Yeah,
left everything there with the time that I had. And
for
so,
sure.
I'm excited for you guys to get out there. Is your other guys from DNA going to go out there, or is it a different group of friends?
Be a different group of guys.
Cool.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah. So other guys that I go shooting with, one of the guys sits on the board at the archery club, and then another and his buddy are going with us, and then another friend of mine, who's also like a newer bow hunter, been in it for the last couple of years, but super sharp guy, great shape, really good people. So I'm excited to go out with all of them, man. We're all going into it as prepared as possible. So it'll be fun to see how we end up faring up.
So I'm going to ask you a quick question. If you had to
Yeah.
choose one to hunt the rest of your life, elk, mule deer, or whitetails?
Oh man, well, I've never hunted mule deer or elk,
Hmm.
but I would say if I had the opportunity, it would most likely be elk, and that would just be because it's an animal that's extremely large. So if you're successful, you get a lot of meat from it. It seems amazing to be able to call an elk in or stalk in on an elk and hear them bugling. It's just an absolutely beautiful animal. So, and just being able to go through the backcountry, and that's what initially got me into wanting to bow hunt, right? Because you see, the upper echelon of people and figureheads in the industry, like Cam Haynes and like John Dudley and all these other guys, and Dan Staten, that are doing these backcountry elk hunts, and they're busting ass, and they finally get an elk, and they're quartering it, and they're hiking it out, and it's like the allure of that adventure, and that call to the wild. It's something that is very ingrained in us primitively, because we all do. I mean, none of us would be here if it weren't for ancestors being able to hunt food and gather food and all that. So it's something that's called to me, and it would be elk for me. That would probably be the one.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I love
Yeah.
hearing your reasoning behind that, because everyone's got a different reason. And I think
Yeah.
and all of them are right, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's pretty cool. Um,
Thanks, man.
yeah, of course. And then just one last thing too. What's your training looking like coming from,
Yeah.
I don't know if you're at sea level, I imagine.
Yeah. Texas is about pretty flat, pretty much as flat as it gets. So unfortunately, I don't get to do a lot of high elevation training. But I do a mixture. So I traditionally have like a bodybuilding background. That's kind of how I got into just the fitness space. And over the years, I've kind of gotten away from that. I still like a meathead workout every now and again, because they're fun. But
Always
traditionally,
good to
so
get a
like
good
I'll do,
pump.
if I'm oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. You got to build some muscular hypertrophy. You got to get a little swole.
Hmm.
So, but I do a staggered approach. So I'll do, say a push day one day, and then the next day I'll do a metabolic conditioning training. So for anybody who doesn't know, that's like where you're focusing on like your aerobic capacity. You're doing functional training where you're keeping your heart rate elevated to a specific, like to a certain degree. And the way that looks is I'll do like say 5 different exercises, and it'll be a mix of like either a push, a pull, a squat, a hinge, or like a dynamic, like fast paced type of exercise. And then I'll do those for either time or a certain amount of reps, distances, whatever it is. So that way I'm getting like good functional training. I'm getting heavy load on my body. Again, prepping myself for, in the event of packing out, making sure that your joints are properly prepared. So I do like a whole joint warm up before I work out, starting from going bottom up, knees or ankles, knees, hips, lower back, core, and then shoulders. And I do that pretty much every day, and that's just to keep the synovial fluid in there, making sure that everything's strong, working on stability. And then I'll just kind of go back and forth throughout the week. So it'll be a push, a metcon, a leg day, a Metcon, and then a pull day.
Mm.
And then, might take a rest and then kind of keep running through that. For me, that's worked really well. Knock on wood. Haven't had any injuries, which has been awesome. Doing like when I was doing more traditional bodybuilding training, I was noticing like a lot of nagging injuries because you're doing very basic movements where you're only moving either in like one plane of motion, or you're using like single joint movements and you're like isolating muscle groups, right? So, which is great for hypertrophy, but not good for your aerobic capacity and boosting cardiovascular conditioning and just getting good load under your body where your joints are being able to work in synchronicity. So just over the years, that's kind of how I've changed that up, and it's been working really well for me. And then I'll do some running. Running is just always good for me. I like to do that. Never super long distances, but running, and then I'll throw some rucking in there from time to time as well too. Just throw a pack on and just go hike.
Awesome.
So
Yeah,
a little bit of everything.
It's definitely good to keep in mind. A lot of people don't realize how much elevation makes a difference, and even coming from, I think we're at like 4,500 or 5,000 feet, something like that on a daily basis. And then when we backpack through Wyoming, we got to it was Texas Pass was like 11 or 12,000 feet. And
you're up
like
there.
I was feeling it,
Yeah.
And my daughter, actually, she had some issues where I was kind of starting to get concerned. She was 16 or something, but she started to actually like get that tunnel vision that was coming in on her.
Yeah.
So, and she was physically active, she was physically fit. So it's definitely something to keep in mind, especially flatlanders coming out to gain elevation. You got to do as much as you can. So I love that mixture. That's a good mix. You obviously know what you're doing, as having that educational background and personal training. So and then last question, what pack you running?
I'm gonna actually have to buy a new pack. So I have an old Osprey pack that I have right now. It's a 60 liter, but I'll end up getting a Kifaru before I end up going out, just because I like what they do. I know that they overbuild those things. They're tested. So that'll end up being the company that I go with and purchasing when I get out there.
That's awesome. That's really cool. Yeah.
And I've heard good things from you using the Kifaru too, which has been great to see your reviews on that pack that you just got also. So I'm looking forward to picking that up here.
Yeah. It's they're a great company, US company, but more than anything, like they're like family, and their customer services. I mean, you call them and they will tell you, they'll basically give you custom fitting over the phone. As long as you're honest with them, right? Like when they ask you what your waist size is, don't do the whole like I'm a 34 when you're really a 36. Like they don't care if you're chubby or not, right? They just want to make sure you're fitted. And it was cool to see people up at TAC where they put on the pack, they dropped their pack that they've been carrying all day. They put on this, the Kifaru pack, and they were like, oh, like just the look on their faces, it was like, oh yeah.
Yeah, that's cool, man. So that I love that. Like, and that's something that's been blowing up in recent too. And I think just over COVID is like American made, American built type of companies, because that's just, it's so important, and that's just something that's kind of fallen to the wayside over decades. But just seeing companies that are really taking that into their own and focusing on good customer service, any company like that, like I back 100%. I love that. Phorm's another good company like that. Like I had an issue where I'd bought a pair of shorts, and I messaged them at like, it was like Saturday at like 10 at night, because I picked up the package late. I was like, hey man, ended up being too small. And within 5 minutes, I got an email back at 10 o'clock at night on a Saturday. And they were like, man, I'm so sorry. I'm going to process this for you first thing in the morning. And it was just one of those things, like it seems minute, but you do not get customer service like that from a lot of companies. And when you do, like, you have to back those companies. You have to have good brand loyalty with that. So I really appreciate good stuff like that.
Do you know any other companies that give 110% money back guarantees?
I have none.
Like not even just 100, but 110. Like they'll pay you to send it back if you don't like it. Like that's crazy. Awesome. It's awesome when people recognize what they have as far as the quality product, and they back it with good customer service. Like it's unbeatable, And so I think that's awesome. And I agree with you. It's good to turn to those US companies, especially nowadays when you didn't order a bow you did order a bow this year. Did you pick one up from the shop?
Yeah,
Or?
I got it from Archery Country this year. I didn't
Okay.
order it. I had happened to get lucky, and I'm left-handed, so I got lucky. They had the exact bow I wanted, which rarely ever happens as far as
Mhm.
like left-handed equipment and accessories. It's hard to come by in the space, and
Weirdos.
even
Okay.
yeah. We're second class citizens in this space, but we still seem to figure out how to get it done.
Well, it's funny hanging out with Eric Chesser this weekend at TAC. It was he,
Oh yeah,
you know, his whole lefties unite. You know, it's kind of funny
yeah.
to hear people give him crap about it.
Mhm.
But no, that's awesome. Yeah, I had to wait a couple months, and then the site took like 6 months to get in. It is
Yeah,
ridiculous. So I agree.
yeah,
The whole like having everything in the U.S. I think like what you were saying with the COVID and everything. You know, it's kind of brought it back to the forefront, you know, that we need to
yeah,
start bringing stuff here. So I've tried to put my money where my mouth is, and support
yeah.
companies that are US based, to help them grow, even though my dollars are not a ton compared to other people, but you know, it's what I can do. So um
Yeah.
I was just looking at that too.
Hey, there you go.
There's another good company to support right there,
My
guys.
man. There you go.
Yeah, I
He
have to get
gets
a new
it.
Nalgene, and every time it fills up, my wife's like, "You have so many Nalgenes." I'm like, "I know, and I have how many more stickers I need to put on? I need a
Yeah,
clean canvas."
exactly. Yeah, exactly. There you go. That my sticker inventory directly correlates to how many water bottles I have to
Yep,
have. So yeah.
exactly. Yep.
That's great, man.
Well, awesome, man. Is there anything else that you want to share with the listeners, maybe about your company, you know, and then, of course, after that, where they can find you?
Yeah, man. I mean, right now, not much that I can talk about right now, but I just want to say, man, just the support is so much appreciated. I always just try to make sure that anybody who follows me or DNA Archery knows that, you know, it doesn't go unnoticed. You know, it's something that it's weird to see a following start to build, and to see people want to reach out to you for advice is a really cool thing, and that's something that you have to really respect. So anybody who supported us, you know, up till now, I really appreciate you guys. It's been really cool to see. But yeah, man, that's really all I have, man. We really got to talk on some really cool pointers, and it's been fun to hop on here with you, man. I know we've been talking about it for a little bit, so I'm glad to be able to finally get on here with you.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, I appreciate it again, and I agree. It's so humbling when you have people reach out to you, and you're like, "Oh, well, wait a second. I was in your position like less
Yeah,
than 2 years ago." You know,
yeah,
and like, and I love that you put in your bio. It's like, I'm not a professional. I'm just passionate. And you
yeah,
know, I always tell people, I'm like, just kind of like what you said earlier. Um, this is what I do that works. You're gonna
yeah,
have to figure it out, and this is how I went about figuring it out, because I'm not a
yeah,
Dudley. I'll never
yeah,
pretend to be like, I am
yeah,
not at that level.
yeah.
And I love that you approach it that way as well. So
Thanks.
awesome. And where can people find you at? I know we've mentioned it a couple times, but drop it again.
Yeah. Yeah, man. So Instagram, YouTube is all going to be Thwack with two A's, so THWAACK. The company is going to be at DNA Archery Co. And that's also the website, dnaarcheryco.com. You know, we're going to be working on putting up some more content for the YouTube for that specifically. It's been slacking on it. You know, unfortunately, we also have day jobs for now. So but we are working on beefing up the website and the company YouTube and all that. So it'll be at Thwack or at DNA Archery Co. That's where y'all can find us. And again, as always, DMs are open. Anybody has any questions, I'm always here for you. Appreciate y'all.
Yep, definitely. And guys, go get you a cool sticker like this so you can buy more Nalgenes. Right.
Yes, sir. Drink your water.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on, man. It's been awesome. I really appreciate it. And you guys go check it out. I'll leave the links down below. Go buy you a shirt. Saturdays are for the bows. And you know, a
Yes, they
good
are.
hat like what you see here that Nick's wearing. But yeah, go support good company. And yeah, you guys know where to reach them. So thanks again for tuning in, guys. You know what I always say, get out, live your life, and love it.